A sudden escalation in military conflict between the United States and Iran has erupted, with a massive U.S. strike on Iranian targets following an attack on a commercial ship. The implications for global oil supply and geopolitical stability are profound. The coming days will be crucial and could lead to several potential scenarios. Analysts are particularly concerned about an immediate energy shock, with oil prices potentially spiking to $150 to $200 per barrel if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed for more than a week. This vital waterway is responsible for approximately 20% of the world's oil supply, and any disruption could send shockwaves through global markets, impacting everything from fuel prices to inflation rates. Iran's recent military strikes signal a dangerous escalation as it appears to be testing U.S. defenses and regional stability. Such actions may prompt neighboring countries like Jordan, Oman, and Qatar to seek enhanced U.S. military protection, fearing they may be next in Iran's crosshairs. The abandonment of diplomatic channels, highlighted by former President Trump's statements, underscores the growing likelihood that a negotiated resolution is increasingly elusive unless one side suffers a substantial setback. As markets react, energy stocks have seen sharp increases, while broader equities are under pressure, reflecting investor anxiety and uncertainty. The humanitarian implications are severe, as the conflict threatens to disrupt the flow of essential supplies to the Middle East, exacerbating crises in areas already facing instability, such as Yemen and Syria. The potential for widespread famine and displacement looms large, intensifying the urgency for international aid and intervention. Looking ahead, the geopolitical landscape is poised for significant transformation, with alliances potentially shifting and new power dynamics emerging. Countries may reassess their foreign policies in light of increased tensions. As leaders navigate these turbulent waters, the next few weeks will be critical in determining whether the situation escalates into broader conflict or if diplomatic efforts can be revived to restore stability in the region. The fate of millions hangs in the balance as we await further developments. The current crisis is the culmination of escalating tensions between the U.S. and Iran over several months. A significant factor has been the U.S. naval blockade of Iran, aimed at disrupting illicit oil shipments, which began earlier in 2026. This blockade intercepted tankers and significantly affected global oil markets, contributing to rising oil prices and supply chain disruptions worldwide. Iran's response included aggressive posturing, attacks on commercial vessels, and threats to close the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately 20% of the world's oil passes. The shift from diplomatic engagement to military confrontation was underscored by warnings from the Trump administration that negotiations might be over if Iranian aggression continued. The recent attack on the container ship represented a tipping point, prompting an unprecedented U.S. military response that included airstrikes and naval deployments in the region. Past conflicts have often seen limited engagements, but the scale and direct nature of this confrontation signal a new era of potential warfare in the region. The ramifications extend beyond military escalation. They threaten to destabilize an already volatile Middle East. Regional allies of the U.S., including Israel and Saudi Arabia, are closely monitoring the situation, fearing that a prolonged conflict could embolden Iran's influence. Economically, the ongoing crisis could exacerbate inflation and energy costs globally, affecting consumers from the Americas to Europe. The interconnectedness of the global economy means that disruptions in oil supply can lead to price hikes in everyday goods, impacting households and industries alike. Looking ahead, the potential for further military actions looms large, as both sides appear entrenched in their positions. If diplomatic solutions are not sought urgently, the risk of a wider conflict could escalate dramatically. The next few weeks will be pivotal in determining whether a path to de-escalation can be forged or if the situation will spiral into a protracted and devastating conflict. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East has escalated significantly, drawing global attention and concern. At the heart of this crisis is the Strait of Hormuz, a strategically vital waterway that serves as a conduit for about 17 million barrels of oil each day. This narrow choke point is crucial not only for oil exporting nations, but also for global energy security. If the strait were to be closed or disrupted, the ramifications would be severe, leading to an immediate threat to the stability of oil supplies worldwide. Such an event could trigger an energy shock, significantly increasing oil prices and potentially pushing economies into inflation and recession. The context of this conflict is deeply rooted in historical tensions between the U.S. and Iran. This military confrontation marks a critical turning point, as the scale of engagement has not been seen in decades. The U.S. has been actively involved in the region for years, aiming to curtail Iran's influence and nuclear ambitions. However, recent actions have escalated hostilities, with both nations engaging in direct military operations. This situation not only endangers bilateral relations, but also risks drawing in regional allies. Countries like Saudi Arabia and Israel, which have vested interests in containing Iran, could become embroiled in this conflict. Furthermore, the potential involvement of Russia adds another layer of complexity, transforming what began as a bilateral dispute into a broader regional war. The impact of these developments extends far beyond geopolitical dynamics. For the average person, rising oil prices directly affect transportation costs, consumer goods, and energy expenses. This increase can lead to higher inflation rates, straining household budgets and overall economic stability. The interconnectedness of global markets means that disruptions in oil supply can ripple through economies worldwide, affecting everything from food prices to manufacturing costs. Looking ahead, the outlook remains uncertain. The potential for further escalation looms large, and diplomatic efforts will be crucial in mitigating the risks of a larger conflict. As nations weigh their strategies, the imperative to maintain open shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz becomes paramount. The world must prepare for the possibility of sustained volatility in energy markets, which could reshape economic landscapes across the globe. Overnight, on July 12, 2026, the U.S. Central Command launched a series of strikes against approximately 140 targets in Iran. This military action was initiated after Iran attacked a Cyprus-flagged container ship in the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, igniting a fire that forced the crew to evacuate. The Iranian military responded aggressively, firing missiles and drones at U.S. bases located in Jordan, Oman, and Qatar. This marked the first direct cross-border strikes on U.S. forces since the recent escalation of tensions, which had been building for months amid heightened rhetoric from both sides. President Donald Trump declared that the United States would act as the guardian of the strait, asserting it was still open for commercial traffic and emphasizing America's commitment to maintaining international shipping lanes. However, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps swiftly declared the strait closed until further notice, which directly impacted global oil flows and raised alarm among international markets. The Strait of Hormuz is crucial for the global economy, carrying about 20% of the world's oil consumption. The closure has already resulted in significant disruptions to oil shipping, pushing crude prices above pre-war levels, with analysts warning of further spikes if the conflict escalates. This situation serves as a stark reminder of the volatility in this region, where geopolitical tensions can quickly translate into economic consequences worldwide. As oil prices surge, other industries are also beginning to feel the pinch, with transportation costs rising and inflationary pressures mounting. Supply chains, already fragile from previous disruptions, face new challenges as uncertainty looms over the availability of oil. Countries heavily reliant on oil imports are particularly vulnerable, and some analysts predict that this could lead to broader economic consequences, including potential recessions in oil-dependent nations. Looking ahead, the international community is calling for restraint and dialogue to avoid further escalation. Diplomatic efforts may intensify in the coming days as nations seek to navigate this precarious situation. The potential for a wider conflict remains a concern, and the focus will be on whether the U.S. and Iran can find common ground before the situation spirals further out of control. As tensions escalate, what do you predict will happen next in this crisis? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for daily deep dives into the most pressing global issues.